Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Eons. Welcome to Strange Eons Radio. That's Eric over there.
Hello.
That's Vanessa over there.
Hello.
Hey guys, if you're listening, this is the penultimate episode of Strange Eons Radio that's going to be recorded at my current place. And
Right.
the next episode will be the last, and then we'll be in the new place.
It's exciting. And
It's very
my
exciting.
God. I mean, it's weird. It's weird coming in here. Everything's gone.
Yeah.
It's very empty. Very
Yeah,
empty
I was
in here.
fortunate enough to be able to afford to pay for a month of rent here and a month of rent at the new place. So I've been able to move at my own pace. And
Yeah.
man, that is a luxury that most people do not have.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than like hauling your sweaty ass up and down stairs for like 2 days straight,
Yes.
trying to shove in everything you own into like a truck and get as many friends as you can to do this brutal work with you.
Especially on one day. Everybody's schedule never works out. So this is nice that, on the various weekends I've been doing this, I've been able to have people say, I can work this weekend. And I'm like,
Oh,
great,
cool.
help me take down bookshelves and shit like that. So
Perfect.
with all of that, there's been a lot of trouble trying to watch things, but I've managed
Yeah.
to watch a few things. Most recently, just last night, I watched Black Widow.
I just
I
saw that
did too.
You all watched Black
Yeah.
Widow. You did you see it in the theater, Vanessa? Or?
I did see it in theater.
Oh, I'm curious what you thought
I
of
did
it.
not.
You did not either. We both shelled out the $30.
I was going through it,
Wow.
and the way it came up, it didn't say 30 until there was verbiage right when I hit the thunk. It's like, oh, fuck, I thought it was going to be 20. Oh, well, too late now. I have been charged.
I did spend less than that going
Yeah,
and seeing
exactly,
the
yeah.
theater, but that's okay.
Really though? Did you get concessions?
Oh, okay. Well, then
Mhm.
probably about the same
This
after
is true.
concessions.
This is very true.
But the popcorn was very good. So
Well, let's talk about the movie without too many spoilers. I liked it. I didn't love it.
I also, you know what? I really liked it. I think that it was a surprise because I had zero expectations to low expectations. I was like, I don't know what the story is going to be. The trailer kind of looked like ass to me. It wasn't a super compelling concept. And I thought they did a pretty good job with it.
I love Scarlett Johansson and I love her
Yeah.
in this character.
Yeah.
I don't feel like she was as interesting in her solo movie as she's been in all of the other movies. And that was a little
It was
disappointing.
much
Yeah.
more based on like the other people too. Like it was so much more about her sister.
Feels like it was kind of a backdoor origin story for her sister.
Yeah,
It
we're
does.
going to
the
get
new-
the new Black Widow as the Avengers recast
Right.
and move forward. And I thought the most compelling person in the movie was the guy from Stranger Things playing her dad. And he was, at least as far as
Yeah.
individual scenes, his were far more fun than most.
fun. He was
he
the
brought
fun
the
part.
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was definitely very enjoyable. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name
Is
right
it
now.
David Harbour? Barber?
Yeah,
David?
Harbour.
Sounds right.
Yeah, he's great. He's great in everything. I'm glad that he got to get into a superhero movie of some quality instead of that
Yeah.
piece of shit Hellboy film
Oh
he was
God.
You know?
in. I thought Rachel Weisz was wonderful,
Mhm.
but I always think she's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I did love I love the girl power. If you're not familiar with the movie, this is not really a spoiler, but this is basically Black Widow versus a bunch of other Black Widows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. It was like all the fight scenes were between her and some other chick that was equally as, deadly as she
Yeah.
was. And I was like, wow, this is a really cool thing. I wanted it to be, it felt like they were going for a Mission Impossible vibe.
Mhm.
I wish that they had been able then to go as dark as Mission Impossible sometimes goes.
Yeah.
And, the stakes are pretty low, especially since this is a flashback movie and we know she's got to live through it and all that. But the stakes are low on all these movies because the
They're
lead
superheroes.
always lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The part of what I wish they would have gone for, and because they've been so gutsy in the shows, the TV shows, I would have liked like you said, flat out much more of a Mission Impossible. That ending was a pure Marvel movie ending, with the giant
Absolutely.
events happening.
Yeah.
And it didn't necessarily need to do that.
No.
Actually, I think that kind of hurt the movie because it was so over the top. I was like,
yeah,
oh.
the like Sky City or whatever.
Yeah.
Like just
The Red
unnecessary.
Room.
Even that did not
No.
have to be a thing. I was like, why
I
did
don't
it have
know
to be in the
why.
sky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't have to be Russian shield or whatever they were trying.
Right.
It's sort of
Yeah.
like, but it is fun. And yeah, I think Black Widow deserved a little better. It should have been a spy movie, man, not a.
I really wanted it to
action-adventure.
be more like Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that would have
man.
been very, very cool. Like, or her like being unprogrammed, like watching her go through that.
Yeah, now that would have been
really
cool.
interesting.
Now, the thing is, this does kind of open it up if we're throwing out, flashback movies. There's no
Sure.
reason we can't get a flashback movie with Black Widow in it again,
Sure.
doing something else. And I'd be all for that. I think in the right hands, she is a really cool character.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't read or seen anything on how well it's doing.
I'm sure it's doing gangbusters.
Yeah, I think it was doing really good. I heard some guys on a podcast who do a Marvel podcast talking about it had really good numbers, but I honestly don't remember what they were. But one thing I will mention before we finish up on this is you'd mentioned the girl power part, and I think that's really interesting because we had a movie with Jennifer Lawrence come out
Right.
several years ago that was basically Black Widow.
Red Sparrow or
Red
something
Sparrow, yeah. And I remember at the time being like, why the hell can't Marvel get their ass together to make this happen? And that movie was such a, I fucking hated it. It was
Yeah,
such a
it was-
flat,
it was
awful
terrible.
thud.
But what I liked about that movie is they went dark with it.
They did go dark with
and,
it.
and I get you can't really do that on a Disney Marvel movie. So
You
Yeah.
can't, and I think because it's now been done, it's like, well, why? So instead of being like, oh yeah, and this is the bit where they made you dance until your feet bled, it's like, oh, let's just joke about how we don't have like wombs anymore.
right.
So it's kind of a different twist on that. And Marvel's evolved so far past being able to be just a purely dark franchise.
It's so interesting. Marvel at the beginning, starts with Iron Man, and they had nothing to lose, really.
Yeah.
And now that they are so big, they have everything to lose. So
Yeah.
every movie has to kind of follow
A
a really
formula.
tight formula.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's why I'm glad there's this TV shows to be something different. I'm really interested
Yeah.
to see the what if
Yeah,
shows
that looks
when those
fun.
start up. The post credits thing looked interesting.
Yeah.
It's not really compelling. But some of those post endings, you're like, oh my God, this was like, okay, I see what they're doing here.
Yeah.
And also, it then makes sense why the movie had to be delayed a little bit
Yeah.
longer, at least in light of what we've seen on
oh, sure.
other things.
You
So.
know what?
Yeah.
I didn't even put that together, but I was just mad that the Doritos with Black Widow on the cover didn't come back. I was like, come on. I want to celebrate this movie with you guys again. Bring them back so I can enjoy them for real this time.
Take a bag into the movie theater.
There you go. What about you, Vanessa?
So I watched the second part slash second movie of the Fear Street
And so did I.
franchise.
So did I.
Whoa.
We're gonna run out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, don't
'Cause
worry.
we
You guys
also-
you guys probably have not seen the other one I'm going to talk about, but that's all right. This was on my list too to talk about today. So,
Oh,
hey,
good. Yeah,
what did you think of this one?
I liked it way better.
That's funny because
How
I liked
funny.
it way less.
I didn't
Wow.
finish it.
Really?
I was like 50 minutes into it, and I was like, God, and I looked, I'm like, what? I got another
It's super
40 minutes
long.
in this?
Really
I'm
long.
out.
It was really long.
So I did. Well, that's so interesting. Please
Yeah.
tell me what you liked about it.
I don't know. It just felt like the story and the characters made a lot more sense to me. It didn't feel like they were shotgunning everything like at the wall. It felt like a very play by the numbers summer camp slasher piece, but it just, I don't know, it just worked. I felt like I was in the ride. I buckled in. I knew what I was getting, and I was fine with it.
That's interesting because I kind of had the opposite reaction where I'm going, it started. I'm like, wow, this looks great. This looks like it's Friday the 13th number whatever for a
Yeah.
few minutes. And then they didn't follow through on. They
That
didn't take
feel.
like the first one. They did the '90s slasher movie fairly well,
Mhm.
and then injected the witch stuff into it. This one was, they really didn't do the slasher movie well at
Mhm.
all,
Right.
and the witch stuff sort of took over everything.
Oh, it
and
did,
I'd rather
yeah.
they either pick one or the other. Let's have it be
Right.
minimum again and just make a slasher movie,
Sure.
or let's make this a witch movie that just happens to be in a can. It felt, and I think that's part of the reason it was so long. They kind of tried to do both and were weaker because of it. But I mean, I didn't hate it. I did finish it. But when it started, I was like, oh wow, this is going to be really cool. And then it
Yeah.
just, it didn't become a slasher movie like it looked like it was going to be.
I think your analysis is actually pretty spot on. Like, I do think that having those two different sideline plots definitely ate into the fun summer camp film.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and it did make it way too long. I think I was intrigued enough with that witch concept that I was like, oh, sure, okay, tell me more about this and that.
Yeah.
And the music wasn't as upsetting this time around. I felt like the first one, it was like in the first 10 minutes, it was every single 90s hit back to back to back to back. Every time they like cut to a new shot, I was like, I guess I'm in a new song now. Are you guys going to be selling CDs? Because it really feels like it.
I thought that was on purpose to make it feel like it was a movie from the 90s, not just set in the 90s.
It just overwhelmed me.
They did that in the 70s one too. There's
They
at
did,
least
but
5 complete cliche songs.
Yeah.
in that
I think
movie.
it was just the back-to-back part that was, because I did definitely feel that for
Yeah.
sure.
As opposed to like Guardians of the Galaxy went out and found popular but relatively obscure shit that's not in
Yeah.
every movie. They went, well, okay, this has been in 15 films. This is in every Vietnam film made from 75 to 85, so we got to include that.
Oh my God,
You know,
it's
just
Run
like-
Run in the Jungle from Creedence Clearwater
Yes.
Revival. We must be in Vietnam, 1969.
I just hope that for this Fear Street 1666, we get just a nonstop barrage of the hits from
Oh,
the
yeah.
1600s.
There you go, yeah.
All the hits from the 60s.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
I will go back to it. As we've talked about, I'm moving and everything. And I just was, halfway through it and I was like, I've got shit I could be doing. This isn't grabbing me.
Sure.
So, and most importantly, I'm just super happy that this exists and that next week we get the end of a trilogy this quickly. It's just super cool that Netflix has done something like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems to be doing really well.
Does it? I have no
I've heard
idea.
a lot of people talking about it. I've seen it show up a lot. I mentioned, I think it was last week, where it's like, I wonder if they're testing the waters. I think it's more, I wonder if they're seeing if we show this one, will this generate a lot of talk so people will see the second episode more? And then will that generate into more talk so they'll see the third? I don't know if that's happening, but I've seen a lot of people talking about it.
Well, this leads us into a little bit of a conversation about how so HBO Max has been doing their day of date, I think they call it, when they release a movie in the theater and on HBO Max. I can't remember which one, Showtime or something like that, now has a deal with Universal, or maybe it's Amazon or something, where they're going to show a movie no later than 4 months after it's been in the theater. Everybody's trying to still figure this out.
Yeah.
HBO has said they will not continue the day of date past the end of 2021.
Wow.
And all of that is really interesting. But the most interesting thing I saw in this article I was reading was that they're talking about, these Universal, Warner Brothers, all this stuff. Netflix has 72 films, original projects coming out.
Oh my God.
In the next year.
Oh my God.
That is a massive amount of output. Now, they're not all going to be $100 million movies or anything like that.
Sure.
But as a studio, Netflix has become like the biggest.
Yeah, they're huge. I think it's because with everybody else propping up, like HBO comes and grabs all their shit. Hulu, Disney pulls all their stuff. They're becoming an original streaming studio, and pretty good at it so far.
Yeah.
And also a really solid foreign TV distributor.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that there's so much good foreign content available, and that again they're taking those really neat risks where they're like, hey, it's a German sci-fi series. Here you go. Oh, everybody loves dark. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, we succeeded. Great.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. The one I'm looking forward to most is finally Stephen King's and Peter Straub's The Talisman is being adapted by Netflix in a series format, which is the only way it can be. And the fact that they're doing stuff like that, and I mean, that's a Spielberg production. So Spielberg is going to Netflix with this thing, and it's like, Jesus, these guys got a lot of clout right now.
I feel like everybody has to like eat their hats because so many people at the start of streaming were like, you should only ever see movies that's in the theater, and like we need to shoot on film and not on digital and all this stuff. And now everyone's like, but they have money and people are watching it. So
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. That's always what it turns down to. Unless, you're Christopher Nolan and you can go, I can get any budget I want to, so I demand we shoot on film. It's like, fine.
Yeah.
I mean, what is there? Him and Quentin Tarantino, or I think everybody else is digital now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of a totally different world of film, then I watched a documentary. They Came from the Swamp, the films of William, I think it's Grefe, Grefe.
I do not know this.
It's a series that I purchased before Arrow Streaming came out, but it's more of that regional horror. It's a guy who worked in Florida. And he did a bunch of films in the 60s and 70s. And, you do the old joke of he did it his way. Well, he did. He did exactly what he wanted to do in the way he wanted to do it. And generated a hell of a following for himself. He's, at least at the time, Hollywood would go to Florida and they'd find him and use him somehow, either to help hire local talent, or he directed, let's see what some of Mako, I believe, The Jaws of Death was one of his.
I think I've heard of it.
It sounds so familiar, but it might be an insurance company. I don't know.
Good point. But
Mako is cheap auto paint.
Not okay, there it is. I don't know. It's something not relevant to my interest that comes on TV a bunch.
Uh-oh, better get Mako.
That's it. See? It could be insurance. It's a very generalized ad.
But he worked on like Live and Let Die, because a lot of that was shot down in Florida, so he worked on that. 21 directing. He worked up until he's still alive, I believe. He had a short film come out in 2019. He was born in 1930, so he's been doing it a while. But it was just a fascinating study on a guy who made whatever he wanted when he wanted to. A lot of biker movies because it was the late 60s, and racing movies because it was the mid 60s. And then a little bit of, the exploitation and stuff as it gets into the 70s with Impulse and Whiskey Mountain and stuff. And
This all sounds like stuff that would have been shot in Florida. All of it.
Very much, yeah. Yeah, and the interviews of people talking about how hard it is to operate those skimmers they use down there with the fans in the back.
Oh, sure.
It's like he's talking about he's trying to make me make turns that nobody can make, and I go flying off the edge, and the thing stalls. And it's really neat. I've got another one by a guy whose name I don't know yet because I haven't watched the stuff, who's in Wisconsin, and all of his shit was shot there. So it's interesting to find out about him next. And no, I did not watch an Andy Mulligan film or anything on Arrow Streaming, although this documentary was Arrow Blu-ray.
So this documentary is available on Arrow Streaming now?
Probably.
At what point does Arrow give us money? That's what at least free movies. Come on. Somebody give us like a free subscription to your streaming. We'll talk about you.
Yeah,
I mean,
problem.
we'll continue to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll continue our free advertising.
I think
for
we've
you.
realized why they're not giving us any money.
Damn it.
One of the other things I have discovered, although it is not new, is you remember the old Man Logan storyline that became the Logan movie, kind of.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that then became a continuing comic book.
Oh. I knew there was one, but I didn't realize it was from that.
I'm so far away now in my comics from reading new X-Men and stuff like that. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that Wolverine was dead.
Oh, okay.
And then Old Man Logan somehow ends up time traveling back and being stuck in the present day with a bunch of young X-Men
Oh.
that, if you remember, spoilers, and remember in the Old Man Logan story, he gets fooled by the villains into killing all the X-Men. So now he's set out on this big journey to make sure that this can't happen. And what that means is basically putting a list on his arm that says he has to kill Bruce Banner, Mysterio, and all these villains and all this stuff. And halfway through this, he starts realizing, I'm not in my past. I'm in a past. But like the Hulk he comes upon is that new Hulk, the Amadeus Cho.
Oh,
And he's fighting him, and he's realizing, I'm about to kill this guy, and it's not even the guy that's going to be the person I need to kill to make this not happen. So
Wow.
it's a really interesting story, and I'm on like book 5 now. I don't know how long this is going, but I'm on issue 24 or something.
Oh my God.
And it's been going since I think 2017 or something, and I'm just fucking in love with it. I'm in love with the art and the writing and everything. It's really interesting stuff.
Well, that's very cool.
Wow. And it's called Old Man Logan?
It's called Old Man Logan, and the joke is they call him Old Man
Right,
Logan, or they call him Old Wolverine for a while until he finally says, if anyone else calls me Old Wolverine, I'm going to kill him.
It's so good. Oh, that's really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Gosh, pretty much the only other thing I watched, which is probably something you guys all watched as well,
Let's
was
find out.
the penultimate episode of Loki.
I'm still behind on Loki.
Well, let's see. Was this episode 5?
I think it's 6.
I think I'm
5.
up to date.
You're probably, I'm trying to think of what I
Wednesdays
could say.
when the new ones come out.
Yeah, I'm sure I watched it on Wednesday. Yeah, and I loved it.
Yes. Yeah.
But are you telling me then there's only 6 episodes?
There's only one more episode,
No.
from what I understand.
Shoot, I thought this was going to go 8 episodes
I
or
know,
something.
I know. Yeah. It's been really enjoyable and really like stylistically has shifted a lot through this whole thing.
Almost from episode to episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I kind of wish to a certain extent that there was a little more time in that sort of Brazil-esque 1970s orange brutalist space.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's just been a really fun ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, I was never a huge fan. I think I knew too many girls who thought he was hot, and I was like, I don't get it. He's very stringy, but but no, like he's been just such a joy to watch, and all the other actors who've shown up. Also, I am forgetting his name now, but one of the old Loki, who's there.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Famous British actor.
I guess I didn't recognize him.
Yeah. Guy from Withnail and I, whose name I'm blanking on. But I was just like, oh my God, you got fucking Blah to just be like.
I love Blah.
I love Blah. He's so good. He's one of my favorites.
Blah, blah, blah.
But no, like they do have such quality talent walking around. And I don't know. It's just that they're clearly having such a good time.
Well, and obviously Alligator Loki has stolen the
So
show.
good. So good. Alligator Loki. Who would have thought? I like that Old Man Loki keeps talking to Alligator Loki and seems to know what he's saying and is constantly responding to him. It's very nice.
It has been, I guess that introduction of all of the Lokis at once,
Yeah.
that's when I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere, because it just got so ridiculous to see the fact that they all got together and they're clearly all Loki at heart. And so
Mhm.
teaming up is not the best possibility for them.
This is probably going to go terribly, terribly wrong. But I still have no idea. Like, I feel like there's too many possibilities for what is really going on in this still.
Well, it's got to tie into Multiverse of Madness, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I'm guessing it'll be an end to this story and a bunch of unanswered questions that will have to be answered in that movie.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's going to be interesting to see what Marvel does, because they can't fully expect everybody to have watched all the shows and how much of the world they're setting up with these shows for the new series. It's like, how are you going to compress that into some understandable way before you start the actual film.
Yeah, I kind of felt like that with, I don't know, I think they're really good at doing this kind of setup payoff
yeah.
thing though,
Mhm.
because the Infinity Stone thing, there were like 9 movies. I was like, I don't know what the fuck is up with these stones. I don't care. I wish they would stop showing me these weird teasers. I don't understand. And then by the time we actually got there and like showed it, I was so invested. I was like, stones, I care so much right now.
Oh yeah, that's part of why I'm curious, because they do
Yeah.
it. They do it well, really well.
I have a feeling that what we'll get in the movies is pretty generic explanations and nods to the people who have watched the series.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it'll be easily digestible by all.
Yeah, that's true. It will be. It's Marvel. So, well, since we talked about one of the ones I was going to mention, I'll mention a comic book as well. I've been reading
Ooh.
on my borrow from the library app a series called Something is Killing the Children.
Oh, I read the first one of those.
It's good. It should have stuck with it.
I was gonna say I didn't enjoy it, so I bailed.
It's dark,
Yeah.
and it's really dark. The whole storyline is there's a bunch of invisible creatures that are killing kids, but only kids can see them. There's a secret society of people that are trained to see and kill these creatures, and it's vicious. Right? They kill a lot of kids and have. Well, it's fun. It's really good. It's smart and interesting, and does interesting shit that you don't usually see in comic books. It's relatively violent, which is a little surprising considering it's almost all children getting destroyed.
Is this a new ongoing series?
Yeah,
or
I think it's like
okay.
issue 13,
Oh, okay.
14.
Well, that sounds interesting to me.
And, you know, the cost of borrowing it from the Hoopla app is good.
I got to get on
Free.
Hoopla.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm just so excited the libraries are opening back up.
Yeah.
My free comic database
It's
coming back.
very good.
So
for
are all the
that.
homeless people who live out on my street.
Oh, I bet.
Now they've got a bathroom to shower in.
That's pretty exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, good times.
Will
Okay.
your move take you further away from the downtown corridor?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
That was part of the plan.
Part of the
That's
plan.
really nice.
Good
That's
idea.
really nice.
Before we break, though,
Yes.
I wanted to throw out there, we've got Danny Williford working on a Etsy page for us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so he's going to set up one that he's going to run, and then he's going to help me set up one where we'll have stuff as well. But yeah, we're officially endorsing what he's putting out there. And,
Oh, for sure. I saw t-shirt design.
and the coin.
Yeah.
The coin is available there, yes.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
That store is available now. Are we able to send people to it?
it is available now. Let's see if I've got Pilot of the Night on Etsy. I would do a search for that.
Pilot of the Night.
All one word.
I love it. And you guys, you got to get on these coins that he had made. They are very reasonably priced, and they are so cool.
They're really, they feel so quality. They're really like hefty.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't want them, they're perfect to throw at the enemy or something.
It's
Oh,
true.
there you go. Buy a couple and piss off Kelly by hitting a seagull with them. Or
How
something.
dare you?
Wow, that got really, really fucked up there.
Hey, guys.
Damn, son.
Why don't we take a break? And when we get back, I want to tell you all about my band, man.
Do I have to see your show?
Can you do this? Sure.
Mattel's magical musical thing makes making music easy.
How about this?
The magical musical thing is electronic, 9-volt battery not included.
Top that. You're weird.
Mattel's magical musical thing is electronic, comes with songbook.
And we're back. This was my subgenre choice, and the idea was to pick a movie that had bands in it, a playing band, a musical band. And it didn't have to necessarily be a movie about a band, but it just had to have like maybe a memorable scene with a band in it. So I don't know if anyone chose Howard the Duck. That was one of the ones I suggested was okay.
No.
I passed. I did pass. Yes.
Well, I didn't choose that either. What I did choose is a little slice of heaven called Alone in the Dark.
Anything can happen when you're alone in the dark.
Are you afraid of the dark?
Sometimes. Sort of fun. When I was a little kid, I was scared to death to be alone in the dark. I always knew that there was something that I couldn't see that wanted to get me.
Hold it.
What's the matter now?
Did you hear that?
In the closet.
Oh my God.
Outside the window. The worst thing of all was the thing under the bed.
Billy,
It isn't real.
this is a very serious situation.
I know that we're all a little on edge here tonight, but let's take it easy, okay? I mean, this is an old house. There are all kinds of sounds.
Alone in the Dark, starring Jack Palance, Donald Pleasance, Martin Landau, Dwight Schultz, Erland Van Lith. Alone in the Dark, from New Line Cinema.
Which one?
1982.
Okay.
Budget of about $1 million. I could find no box office information. Rotten Tomatoes critics have this at 73%, and the audience has it at 40%.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What? It's such a giant step down.
I have a feeling that will go up because this movie has been very hard to find lately, but as of September, it will be available as a Blu-ray from Shout Factory.
That's what I thought.
Oh.
I'd seen this title popping up all over the place on the groups
Internet.
that, the collectors things I'm on for Blu-rays and shit. Going, is that the one Kelly's going to talk about?
It is. It was directed by Jack Shoulder, who directed Nightmare on Elm Street 2, The Hidden, and Renegades, a couple other films and TV movies and stuff. It was written by Jack Shoulder and some name you might recognize, Robert Shea, who was the founder of New Line Cinema.
Whoa.
And as such, is the producer of the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Critters, Lord of the Rings, and of course just happens to be the brother of Lin Shaye from The Insidious and all those movies.
Oh my God. Wow.
Starring Jack Palance,
Oh.
who played Dracula in a TV movie in 1974.
Yeah.
He was in Tim Burton's Batman, Tango and Cash, City Slickers 2, and, of course, Shane, which is one of my very favorite movies, plus 122 other credits.
A lot.
It also stars KSAR mainstay Donald Pleasance
Yeah.
from You Only Live Twice, Dracula from 1979, Escape from New York, the Halloween series, and 236 other
Whoa.
film credits.
Wow.
It also stars Martin Landau, North by Northwest, Tucker, A Man in His Dream, Ed Wood, Mission Impossible in Space 1999 back on TV. And a name that you might not recognize until I get to his final role, Dwight Schultz. He was in Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, tons of voice work for games and animation, and 97 episodes as Howlin' Mad Murdoch on the A-Team.
Yep.
So, this is a cool little movie, you guys. Dwight stars as Dr. Dan Potter. Not the most exciting name for your protagonist, but he arrives at a mental hospital to see the clinic director, Dr. Bain, and Bain gives him a big, huge hug, and Dan is their new psychiatrist in the ward and everything. And Bain you get a feeling Donald Pleasance is at least as crazy as everybody he's treating in this mental institute. And he kind of shows him around a little bit and then says, "Glad to have you on board." So he heads home, and he's moving things into his new house. And that night at the institute, we see Jack Palance's character. He's in a room with a couple other guys, not like a padded room or anything, but it's his place where he stays. It's almost like a bunch of hospital beds set up there. And he gets this weird look on his face, and he goes to the window. And as soon as he places his hands near the window, this big, huge gate slams down and alarms start to go off. And you realize, oh, okay, these guys are locked in here. But it's made to look like they are not. So they're trying to make this a friendlier place. And Bane, Pleasance, is one of those guys who's like constantly touching his patients and hugging them. And he's very, hippy-dippy and all of this stuff. So the next day, Dan arrives back at the hospital to meet with Bane, and then Bane introduces him to all of his patients who are on that maximum security third floor. Bane calls them Voyagers. They're not crazy. They're not anything. They're just living life on a different plane than us, basically. Those Voyagers include Hawks, who was a former World War II prisoner of war who went insane and was committed for fighting and nearly killing a few recent Vietnam war pals out of anger and frustration. One of the others is Preacher, a former priest who was committed for setting fire to and burning down 3 churches, believing himself to be a messenger from God. The unfortunately named Fatty is a 370-pound child molester and pedophile.
Oh, Jesus.
And then the Bleeder is a murderer who was committed for strangling 2 women. We don't get to see his face, but we are told that he was called the Bleeder because whenever he murders someone, his nose starts to bleed. This all starts to make sense later in the movie. So Dan is telling this group of patients that the previous doctor had to leave. But Hawks, who is Palance, he expresses suspicion and hostility. And then after Dan leaves, he tells the other guys that he thinks Dan killed their last doctor and that he probably wants to kill them as well.
Oh, my.
So they must somehow break out and kill Dan.
Wow.
Dan goes home that day, and he meets his younger sister, Tony, who's visiting from out of town. And Tony invites them all to this rock band concert that is going on at this little club. During the drive, Dan tells Tony about why this one guy is called the Bleeder. So it's just a silly moment, but it kind of plants in Tony's mind that she now knows why this guy is called the Bleeder. You can see this is all set up. At some point, she's going to see something, and somebody's nose is going to bleed, and she's going to be like, "Oh shit." So they go to the nightclub, and they watch a punk rock band called the Sick Fucks.
Oh my God.
And the Sick Fucks are punk, man. These guys look punk, they sound punk, and you can tell that Dan is certainly not enjoying himself.
Is it a good movie punk or like a real punk?
It's a real punk, and I'll get into that
impressive.
later in my trivia.
Nice.
Oh my God.
Suddenly, the electricity goes out, and the crowd heads outside, and we see that a blackout has happened everywhere.
Oh, shit.
In the hospital, Preacher sits up in his bed and is like, "I made the lights go out." And Hawks puts his hand near the window, and the gate and the alarm do not come down. So they kill a couple of orderlies, and they steal a car and head into town.
Wow.
Beautiful.
I don't know exactly where this is supposed to take place, but it only takes about an hour of being in a blackout before they go to complete insanity. Everybody is mobbing and looting stores, breaking windows, stealing TVs. The 4 guys show up there, and they walk into a hardware store and come out fully armed. They've got axes, knives, and all sorts of shit. Big, huge scissors. Dan arrives the next day at the hospital to learn that, these 4 patients of mine have escaped, and they've killed people. And the power is still off everywhere. So Dan reports to the police that these maniacs are on the loose. And then just a bunch of weird shit happens. Remember, Dan is being targeted by these guys. So the child molester shows up at Dan's house pretending to be a babysitter to the 11-year-old daughter.
Oh, God.
Dan's sister and wife are arrested for being at an anti-nuke protest. Remember those? Which is why no one is home with the daughter, so this guy can come in. And then the real babysitter does show up at the house to find the little girl asleep in her bed. So she calls her boyfriend over to come and fool around.
A real Con Air moment.
It's 1982. The boyfriend arrives a short while later, and the babysitter invites him up to the master bedroom so they can have sex, which is fucking rude. You guys, come on. You're going to use the master bedroom?
Yeah,
That is pretty messed up.
It really
You gotta
is.
go for,
Couches.
yeah, the couch in the den, surely.
But while making out on the bed, they hear a noise coming from the closet, and lickety-split, they are both dead. From there, the movie becomes this story of basically being trapped in the house with a bunch of insane people. And there's a couple of cool things going on. And it's pretty enjoyable. Plaisance shows up to try and talk the maniacs down, and that goes about as well as you would think. And I'm not going to tell you how the movie ends, but I am going to tell you how the movie ends. After the climax, they have a little bit of a coda. And Jack Palance's character walks through the town. The power's all on. And of course, the sick fucks are playing again. And he goes into the nightclub after beating the shit out of the doorman who wasn't going to let him in. When he's in the club, he watches the punk rockers, and this girl walks up to him. She's whacked out on drugs and everything. And she says something to him, and he grabs her by the throat and pulls out a gun and points it at her neck, and she looks at it and starts laughing, and he looks at her and he starts laughing, and we fade to black.
Oh my God.
Oh.
What an ending. Jesus.
So, a little bit of trivia.
Okay.
This is the very first feature film produced by New Line Cinema.
Oh, wow.
Matthew Broderick was auditioned for the role of the boyfriend who comes over, but Jack Shoulder thought he was too talented for the small part and wouldn't hire him.
Wow.
Felt bad about it. Just like, kid, you've got better stuff going on.
Jesus.
The film was one of the very first horror films to be made with Dolby stereo sound. So the advanced sound levels would often blow out the speaker systems in the older theaters that it was being screened at. During the scene where the pedophile poses as the babysitter, the kid asks him where he lives, and he replies, Springwood. Springwood is the fictional town of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, it did sound familiar.
Lynn Shay has a very small part in the beginning of the film as a fake receptionist. You think she's a receptionist until one of the orderlies comes and takes her back into her room.
It's really good.
And finally, to bring it back to the band situation, The Sick Fucks was a real punk rock band, and you can find their music and performances on YouTube. One of the members of the Sick Fucks ran into star Jack Palance years later in the streets of New York. He said to Palance that he was one of the sick fucks in the film, Alone in the Dark. And Palance replied, "We were all sick fucks in that movie." And then finally, that last bit of trivia I revealed earlier is Shout Factory will be releasing a Blu-ray of this in September, finally.
Nice.
So you do not have to resort to the means I did to get this movie.
Wow. Fantastic. It sounds like a really fun, like 4-villain character setup.
This movie rests on the performance of its antagonists instead of the protagonist, because the protagonist is just kind of this milquetoast guy trying to survive, and he doesn't get really an arc or anything like that. It's just these 4 crazy guys wandering around and doing shit, you know. It's really a good movie.
Sounds so familiar. I might have seen it like in the 80s, but sounds like it's worth a revisit for sure.
I think so.
That sounds awesome. Well, my band movie, I went with a film I had thought I'd seen, but then realized I only saw a scene from it. So I was like, oh, I can watch Jennifer's Body.
You and me are going out tonight. Wear something cute, okay?
You always do what Jennifer tells you to do.
It's just that I like the same things that she likes.
Hey, Jennifer. You look really pretty.
Why don't you just come by my place? Well, this is random.
This isn't really your house, is it?
We can play mommy and daddy.
No way.
We always share your bed when we have slumber parties. Jennifer's evil.
I know.
No, I mean, she's actually evil. Not high school evil. Chip is looking really cute to me lately. How is he tasting these days? You are never a good friend. You could have anybody that you want. Why Chip? You're killing people. No, I'm killing boys. Are you scared? Thought you only murdered boys. I go both ways. I will finish you if I have to. Okay. You can barely finish gym class.
The 2009 classic. This movie has a Rotten Tomato score of 45% critics and 35% audience.
Wow, that's shocking.
It's so low. The budget was 16 million and the box office was 31.6 million. So it did double its, it's not like crazy numbers, but not too bad. The tagline for this movie, for anyone who's not aware of just the most basic part of it, is "She's evil, not just high school evil," referring to Jennifer and perhaps her body. The director for this movie, I have actually talked about really extensively before. It's Karen Kusama. Mm-hmm. So I talked about her in episode 102, where I think we're discussing underrated directors. She did Invitation, Aeon Flux, Destroyer, and I didn't realize an episode of The Outsider, the one about the Yiddish vampire. So pretty good episode. Writer Diablo Cody, who everyone would know from Juno. That was her first film. This is her second. Also young adult Tully, and a former stripper turned abrasive and honest feminist writer, basically.
I just assume they all were.
They're all working their way to that first publishing contract. Just one more poll night and I'll be there. It's starring the beautiful Megan Fox as Jennifer. You would know Megan Fox from being Megan Fox. She's also the on-again, off-again muse of Michael Bay. She was raised by a real estate agent and a parole officer. She started acting at 5 and moved to Florida to make it big. I feel like all the pieces started coming together when I looked into her bio.
She moved to Florida to make it big.
Yep.
Was she just directionally challenged, or
big film community in Florida?
I don't know that she was going directly into film. I think she started modeling.
Okay.
And then eventually she ended up going to LA. But after she debuted in a Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen twins movie, Holiday in the Sun. That's where she started, as well as 124 episodes of a TV series named Ocean Ave. Something else I didn't know about her: she has 3 kids and is divorced with / had the kids with Brian Austin Green of 90210 fame.
Yeah,
we all knew that.
Yeah, I knew that one.
Didn't know that.
Because we all hated Brian Austin Green for getting Megan Fox.
And Donna. He has them all.
No, he had
He didn't have Donna?
in Donna in the series.
Yeah,
but his real girlfriend was Kelly.
Really?
The blonde?
No. I'm
the hot Kelly?
It's been a while since.
The beautiful girl who came from, what was the head of the class? No.
I think
Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know who you're talking about. I think. Yeah.
Kapowski? Played Kapowski on Saved by the Bell?
Look.
Starring alongside Megan Fox is Amanda Seyfried as Needy. You would know.
Hold on, interject before you continue.
Yeah.
Those of you that are going to harass us for not knowing names like that, I'm okay with. When we forget John Carpenter or something, fine, give us crap. We can't remember the character names from 90210 and Saved by the Bell.
The
I don't
fact
feel
that you
bad.
pulled Kapowski out of your ass is pretty impressive.
I mean, it's funny too because I watched it all, but I was like young. I watched it because my mom was watching it. That and Melrose Place, and I have no memory of what happened at all or who was in it. So I was probably too young, and you guys were probably a little too old and male.
Excuse me.
For which?
Which part?
Melrose Place or
I'm
Saved by the Bell?
37. I'm not old.
You're younger than me. Oh my god.
Revelation.
Same age. So also co-starring Amanda Seyfried as Needy, who's really the lead in this film. We would know her from Mean Girls as Squeeze My Boobs for Weather Reports and Mamma Mia, where we were all shocked to discover she could sing. Also in this movie,
I wasn't.
I
haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. She's pretty good, actually.
Cool.
It's weird. J.K. Simmons as
Nice.
as the kind of one-handed teacher. We have Adam Brody as the head of a band named Low Shoulder, which we'll get more into in the plot description. Chris Pratt shows up in this as a random kid who hits on Megan Fox and is in the ROTC, I think. And then Amy Sedaris, who plays one of the moms. And at the very end of the movie, I was like, is that fucking Lance Henriksen in the car for no reason? There's Lance Henriksen as a random motorist at the very end of the film. So the story is following Needy, who lives in Devil's Kettle, Minnesota with her best friend Jennifer Check, a popular mega hot cheerleader, and also her boyfriend Chip. Her friendship with Jennifer is especially unusual because they have literally nothing in common and seemingly no reason to be friends aside from both having kind of this insecurity where the other helps to prop them up. So Needy is very uncool, like doesn't dress sexy, like has glasses, just looks kind of like the nerdy mess girl. But her being kind of not hot props up the super hot girl. And then by getting to hang out with the super hot girl, she's a little bit cooler. And they're both just insecure in these really interesting ways that their friendship does work. And also, they've just known each other forever. So that's kind of the reason why they're hanging out. One night, Jennifer pushes Needy to go see this really cool hot indie band, Low Shoulder, with her at a local dive bar. When they arrive, the singer takes a strong interest in Jennifer, who is basically there to try and have sex with him because she has a strong interest in him. Adam Brody is oddly curious about whether or not she's a virgin. Defending her friend, Needy pipes in, confronting the singer, overhearing him talking to his bandmates, and says, yeah, Jennifer's a virgin. What the fuck, dude? Trying to basically make her friend look good. Jennifer's not a virgin. Like, not even a little bit of virgin. And when Needy tells Jennifer about this interaction, Jen's like, I'm not even a backdoor virgin. And that shit hurts. So the band starts to play their one hit, Through the Trees, which will play many times through this movie. And a fire breaks out, and it is a devastating fire. Immediately, people are just like bursting into flames. Like an entire ceiling falls down on the international exchange student kid. Like as Needy and Jennifer barely escape with their lives, when they come out, you just see all these people flooding out of the building, just really brutally dying. So they go hard. Once they escape, the lead singer of the band, Low Shoulder, appears kind of out of nowhere, casually holding this whiskey and rocks in his hand and saying, oh man, hey guys, I was looking everywhere for you. I'm so glad you're okay. And it's just like, man, there's something fucking up with this guy. He's like, I really feel like I got to get you to safety. Why don't you get in my van? It's really cool. And Jennifer's like, yeah, okay, kind of space cadet-y. And Needy's like, what the fuck is going on? What? And he's like, look, guys, I'm just in shock right now, and I'm just trying to do what's best for everybody. It's super low, like deadpan delivery, really works nicely. This guy is fucking crazy. Some crazy shit's gonna happen. He gets Jennifer into the van, and they drive off, leaving Needy behind. That night, Needy feels like she hears something in the house, and when she goes to check, she discovers Jennifer has appeared covered in blood and wounds. Jennifer is acting kind of like a rabid animal. She opens up the refrigerator, finds like a whole chicken, and just starts eating it like with her raw hands, which is a real joy to watch Megan Fox do. By the way, it's really fun to just watch her like fucking throw her face into a chicken. It's very good. But of course, something is amiss, and she should not be eating that chicken. She throws up black tar everywhere. The black tar then kind of turns into like needles and has this cool CGI effect. She just about eats Needy. She gets really close up to her best friend in a very sexy, scary way. Kind of starts to put her teeth on her neck, asks if she's scared. Needy goes, and then she pieces out. The next day at school, Jennifer appears to not give a shit about the fire and also looks totally fine. Everything's totally good. She tells Needy that she's overreacting and acting weird about the night before. That same day, weirdly, a boy is brutally murdered in the woods, his guts ripped out and his stomach eaten. And we know this because we see Jennifer do it. She then has a very sexy swim through the lake, which is really, really cool. Almost looks like a drone shot, but it's probably a helicopter. 1 month later, Jennifer appears tired and listless in class. Her sexy model looks are dulled. She starts to have acne. Her hair is kind of stringy and greasy. And it turns out that basically she has to eat a person once a month to remain on top of this sort of succubus game that she's ended up in. Needy is also kind of growing suspicious. She knows something's fucked up, but no one's really believing her, and she's starting to question herself. It's only after her friend Colin, who's taken an interest in Megan Fox and Jennifer, disappears and also dies brutally, that she starts to put all the pieces together. Jennifer breaks into her bedroom one night. They share a very sexy moment. And then Needy's like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, we made out, but like, what is going on? Something is wrong. And Jennifer goes ahead and breaks down and lets her know that she was actually stabbed a bunch by the band Low Shoulder. When they took her off, they tied her up next to this sort of waterfall thing, and they had all these devil books, and they were basically trying to sacrifice a virgin in order to gain fame, because they are just another shitty indie band. And the only way to really make it is either to get onto Letterman, be on a crappy soundtrack, or to go ahead and do some devil worship. So they went with that option.
Well, crap. If I'd known those were 3 options we had, I might have gone into devil worship years ago.
Right? Who would have known?
I did, and it still hasn't worked.
Damn it.
Easy. Maybe you just needed the right not virgin to make it all come together.
I'm here to tell you the devil's not always cracked up to be, okay?
Are you saying he tricked you? You know what? I won't open that wound. It sounds like a bad story. So, Jennifer's not really sure what happened. She knows she was stabbed like 100 times and then laid there. And then she woke up and she was walking down the street and she saw Needy's house. So she's like, everything's fine. I don't know what your deal is. What the fuck, dude? Needy's like, what? Dude, something's fucked up. Get the hell out of my room. So, of course, Jennifer just hops out the second story window and disappears. Everything's fine. The rest of the film is really this kind of interesting play between Jennifer having to hunt to survive and is kind of killing all these different people in Needy's life, and starts to cross the line by going after Needy's boyfriend, Chip. and needy at the same time, trying to find a way to defeat her. There's this really interesting sort of feminist tale that's going on where there's this awkward truth about friendship, where that friendship line, you're not really sure where it is. And when you've spent, all day, every day talking to the same person and they're the closest person to you in your life, and then when things start to shift and aren't as real, what does that mean anymore? And what if your friendship wasn't actually just a friendship? What if it was more? Or what if it was less? And there's a lot of questions that are being explored through this, through a succubus and a girl trying to kill the succubus. So the film ends. I do want to kind of give the very final ending beat because I feel like it's important with this whole band theme. Throughout the whole film, we see Low Shoulder growing in fame. Whatever they did, even though they kind of fucked up and accidentally created this super powerful monster, they did become famous. First, they're hailed as local heroes who helped a lot of people get out of the burning fire, which is not the case. They didn't do shit, but that's okay. And then they become this kind of pop sensation off of their single. They donate 3% of their single to the families who are grieving from the fire. And so everyone at the school is like cultishly in love with this band. And consistently, as Needy is trying to deal with Jennifer getting crazy, she'll like turn on the radio and they'll be playing. And she's like, what the fuck? They're just everywhere. And she's always arguing with people like, they didn't do shit. I was there. And they're like, that's not what Wikipedia said. And it's like early enough in the internet that you get a lot of really fun references like Wikipedia. And they found out about the band through MySpace.
There you go, yes.
So very, very cool. But the band is just a really neat kind of B plot that's always sort of going, maybe even C plot in the background. At the very end of the film, after Needy has, plot spoiler here, defeated Jennifer. Jennifer had given her a little final bite because she wasn't killed. She goes off to a mental asylum for murdering her best friend brutally. She has superpowers, though. So she escapes the asylum, and during the end credits, you get to see her go and take revenge on Low Shoulder.
Yes.
So it's all just crime scene photos that are playing on the top of the credits. Really fun, really neat. The music through this whole movie is really good. I think those songs were extremely popular in the UK when I was there. Because the person I was watching it with had no idea what these songs were. And I was like singing. I was like, it's Black Kids. What are you talking about? It's so good. Anyway.
So you say you would have Low Shoulders album if you had lived in the world of Jennifer.
No, I would well, you know what? I probably would have. Absolutely. Especially at that age. Fuck yes. 100%. I would loved crappy indie music. This movie, I always heard that it was shitty or had a, pretty bad response to it.
Oh, it got destroyed when it first came out.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're talking one of the hottest actors. I don't mean like looks-wise, but one of the hottest, most successful actors on the planet right there. You got a writer who just won an Oscar and an up-and-coming director. So the anticipation for the movie was huge.
Yeah.
And it bombed. I mean, when you said 35, I was a little surprised.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be lower because it was just brutalized when it first came out.
It's unreal to me because I remember the backlash. I really knew nothing about the movie. I loved Juno, so I was just kind of vaguely aware that some shitty Megan Fox picture came out, and I was young enough to just fucking hate on Megan Fox for whatever reason. And like, it's really good. Like, the writing is fucking solid. It's a really fun monster. Like, it's not a perfect comedy and it's not a perfect horror film, but it does a really good job at both. And I think from what I was reading, it sounds like they just really marketed it incorrectly. They had a lot of really sexy, like, Megan Fox shit, and people are like, oh yeah, it's a slasher with Megan Fox. And instead it's really a kind of feminist story about two girls and their friendship. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the problem. And then the feminists were probably really pissed about it too, because it's before we really started being comfortable talking about female relationships. So you get these sexually tense scenes, including this like super close up make out, like tongue scene between Amanda Seyfried and Megan Fox, and I can see that pissing people off. But now it's like, oh, that's really interesting. They're exploring this dynamic of their relationship. So I can see that era just being the wrong moment for it. But I would say for anybody who thinks that this movie is total bullshit, you should probably check it out. Because, like, it's got fucking so many talent. J.K. Simmons is amazing.
Well,
unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
He's also fat. It's very strange. I mean, not like fat, but J.K. Simmons fat. It's very, very weird. Yeah. A couple of small pieces of trivia about this. Diablo Cody actually wrote this in the same year as Juno. The title of the film was taken from Courtney Love's band Hole, from one of their songs. Director Karen Kusama said that the script, it was so original, so imaginative, that what it is about the script and the world is that it feels like a fairy tale gone psycho. And I think that's what most fairy tales actually started as. Karen, Cody, and Reitman all knew the film would be rated R from the start, which I think is kind of cool. They were like, hey, it's got a lot of swearing in it. Let's just lean into the R, which too many films are afraid to do now. Cody wrote it with the influence of Lost Boys in her head, but she hadn't really seen that particular subgenre done with girls. So she said she really wanted to speak to the female empowerment and explore the complex relationships between best friends. There's some magazine called CC2K that got a cease and desist order out of this film because they released the script in advance of the film coming out. And then I think they really helped start the train of this is a shitty film by saying they were forced into silence because of their negative coverage of the movie. It's like, no, you were forced into silence because you stole the script and released it, but whatever. Both Fox and Seyfried say that this is their favorite movie to have made. Emma Stone was considered for the role of Needy. Blake Lively turned down the role of Jennifer because it clashed with her TV schedule. Megan Fox on playing Jennifer. Fox was in negotiations to star as Jennifer Check since 2007 and was cast in October of 2007. She said the reason she agreed to the role was she loved the script. I think what I love about the movie is it's so unapologetic and how completely inappropriate it is at all times. That was my favorite part about the script and the character. It's fun to be able to say the shit that she got to say and get away with it, and how people find it charming. I like also that she said, I was trying to have fun with it and felt like I was able to make fun of my own image as to how some people might perceive Megan Fox to be. I was sort of flying freely and hope some of it works. So she's actually pretty fucking humble about it. She also went down to 97 pounds and stopped going outside so she could appear right for the role. Like, it's fucked up. Like, you should not be 97 pounds and like a woman. Like, that's not okay. Anyways, that's fine.
You need to watch The Machinist or a guy version of that.
Oh, I know. He only ate apples and tuna fish for like months. I remember reading that. They both actually kind of dug making out with each other and have both, upon reflection, said that they ended up sort of having a crush on each other while making this movie and would have considered being in a relationship together, except for they were trying to remain professional. So they're like, but you know, I can see it, you know, being a thing. But yeah, a lot of this film is actually practical. It is not Adam Brody's voice for Low Shoulder, because he, as he admitted that he doesn't have the worst voice in the world, but it's not anything anyone would choose to hear. And critics overall basically said the film was not funny enough and not scary enough to satisfy either direction. However, Roger Ebert did enjoy it and dubbed it Twilight for Boys. Boom Studios released a tie-in comic, and the soundtrack was released by Fueled by Ramen. So that was my choice.
I almost hate this movie. There's scenes I like in it. It just, for whatever reason, this movie does not work for me, but more, I hate the society we live in now, where I couldn't have a conversation with somebody about not liking this film without them saying, "Oh, why do you hate women, Kelly?" And
okay, well, that's not
my
fair
answer to that
either.
is, for completely different reasons.
Oh God. Yeah, no, I think that's interesting because I haven't had these conversations with anybody. I don't have any of the realistic baggage. I only have that thing that was placed in the back of my head that I'm a female and therefore I should hate Megan Fox because she sold out our gender. So that's to me, I feel like a lot of these 90s horror films, which I know this is not 90s and 2000s horror films that I'm now coming to, I feel like it's really refreshing and interesting to me because I had such a weird, skewed populist idea of what they were.
Sure.
And now I'm getting to see them for real.
That's cool.
But, at the same time, no one should give you shit for not liking it. If it didn't work for you, it didn't work for you.
It just didn't. And then because there's been like this renaissance around this film and oh my God, it's become a modern day classic. I watched it again and I was like, this is not a very good movie, but that's just me.
At the same time,
what do I know?
One thing I would ask you is, do you like any of Diablo Cody's other movies?
I like Juno. Okay. I don't think I've seen any of the others.
Okay.
So.
A lot of them, I would say her writing can be tough. It's almost like Edgar Wright. Like, if you either like it or you don't like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I was kind of... Juno, I felt, was... By the time Juno came out to me, it was heralded as this new, refreshing kind of film. To me, it felt cliche. Where it's like, you've got this kind of character, and she lives in this world this way. It's like, yeah, I've seen this movie 50 or 60 times. Her writing may stylize it and make it sound a lot cooler, but this really isn't the breakthrough film everybody thought it was.
Right.
As far as characterization and stuff. Yeah, there's a moody teenager who doesn't get along with the world around her. Okay. But, I mean, it's good. It's well written.
Yeah.
It just hit me that way because it wasn't a reaction to the movie. It was a reaction to people's talking about the movie that bothered me more with Juno, where it was like heralded as this unprecedented, never before seen kind of film.
Right.
It's probably one of the best written versions of that kind of film, but it is not new. So by the time I saw Jennifer's Body, I was sort of like, well, let's see what she's like. And I thought it was fine. Yeah. I wouldn't mind rewatching it because I don't think I've seen it since I think I saw it in theater. I don't even remember. Yeah. But about that time. So it's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that people have films that they can rally around and get behind and all of that stuff. But I also understand that, some people have an agenda, and I'm just like, well, okay. This movie fits into your agenda, and that's why you're saying it's a great movie.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing about this kind of era of movies, especially when Juno came out, and you had the guy from Scrubs' film.
Is that the Wallflower one?
Yeah, no, not Perks of Being a Wallflower, but there's that scene with the wallpaper with the guy's shirt matches the wallpaper. So I think that's where you're getting it. But there was this weird thing where it was a moment of like, this is refreshing and interesting, and the music is really like vibing, and they're making a lot of pop references, but it's people who look like me, and I can identify with it, even though this story, you're totally right, it's been told 1,000 times. But for a lot of people who like just whatever movies are hits at that moment.
It's a generational.
Yeah, it was a generational version of that. And I almost hate those movies now too, just because so many people liked them so much or disliked them so much that it's impossible to talk about things like Juno.
Yeah.
It's literally impossible.
Yep.
Yeah. So what did you choose, Eric? I'm curious.
Continuing my realm of weird ass named films, not quite as weird as, Butt Boy. We have 2020's Uncle Peckerhead.
Band meeting. 6 shows, 7 days.
What do you guys need a band for?
So that our band can go on tour.
I can drive y'all. Every touring band needs a roadie, don't they?
Sorry, I didn't get your name.
My name's Peckerhead.
That is not your name.
It's tour time.
Back! We gotta move! Let's go!
What could be taking him so long?
Hello?
Every night at midnight, I turn into something.
Who's to say it wouldn't be one of us next night?
I am in complete control.
Yo! Put your head down so we can get the top of your dome!
Damn!
Cool.
Oh, right. I still haven't seen this.
Same.
Rotten Tomatoes, critics 100%.
Whoa.
Wait
And
a
there's like
second. One
15.
review?
No, there's like 15 or there's like 15. I think was the one I saw.
Wow.
Whoa.
And audience 21,
What?
71. Sorry,
Oh,
Okay. I was like, that's a
71.
huge leap.
I looked down and saw 2 on my page. Fear Street Part 2. So anyways, so 71. This is available all kinds of places: Tubi, Prime, rental. No idea what the budget is. No idea what the box office is because it probably didn't have a box office since it was a 2020 film. It had lots of festival screenings. It killed me that I couldn't do a festival screening last year because this was submitted to Crypticon, and I really wanted to show it, but we couldn't do the streaming rights. Timing just didn't work. If we'd had a physical thing, this would have been in it. And it might have won, or at least it would have probably got my vote for best film we showed last year. Director-writer Matthew John Lawrence, who's done a bunch of shorts, one called 2 Pints Lighter. I don't know if that's drinks or blood.
Sounds British.
Yes. Mike Lawrence stars, done a lot of short films. He was in an art department for the movie The Signal. David Littleton, who is on a few things, Last Two People on Earth, a movie called Porn, and How Many Farts Measure a Life.
What?
Oh, my. There better be an answer in that one.
Yeah, I want to know, man.
It's like how many licks to the center of a Tootsie Pop.
Yes. And Chet Siegel, who's in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, the Chris Get Hard show, public access web videos.
Wow. What a career.
And Ruth Lola, Shoebox Redhead, and Larry Gone Demon. So all of these are all relatively unknown people, as you can tell, but they are all really talented. The acting in this film is top-notch. Movie starts with Judy, who's the head of the punk band called Duh. Punk band name.
God.
Which actually makes kind of a cool-looking shirt. One of the guys later is wearing one of the band shirts, just Duh. Giant letters. Like, all right. But she's leaving her job, and the obvious one of the guys kind of has a crush on her or something. He's trying to say all the wonderful things, but the rest of the crew is very happy to see her leaving. Because they're going on the band's first ever tour. A tour of 6 places.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounds so familiar. Like every friend of mine in a band. I'm going on tour. I'll be back in 5 days.
That's right. So I quit my job. What? The problem is, well, she's very positive, especially considering they're in a punk band. But she's definitely the optimistic band member who's like, everything's going to work out great. This is going to be good. The drummer, of course, is dark and upset, and she doesn't like much anything in the world and has some great fuck the world lines. Funny, smart writing. I mean, this is honestly funny. This isn't one of those like, what did you just say that for? Kind of funny. Good lines. The problem is, just before they go out on tour, their van gets stolen.
No.
What can they do?
Nothing.
So they come across a very, I don't see how it could ever work idea, but they print out a bunch of flyers and put it on any van they see that says, "Hey, can we borrow your van for our tour?" And they put it on one guy's van, and he happens to be in the van at the time. They burst out the back thing. "Why'd you put this on my van?" and stuff. And this is Peckerhead.
Right.
Like, hey, why do you can't call yourself Peckerhead? Well, that's my dad called me till he died. Friends call me Peck. But he comes out kind of yelling at him for putting the thing on the van, and then he realizes they're a band, and he kind of gets like starstruck. The guy's like, "You're in a band?" And so he's very interested. Tell him what they need, and he's like, "Well, I actually kind of live in this van." They kind of, okay, run away, but he hops in the van, pulls up beside him. "I'll drive for you. If you let me drive, I'll do it." And he is very enthusiastic. There's a little problem with him, which we'll get to shortly. But they go to their first live show, and for a movie band, they're pretty good. They call themselves punk, but they're sort of what I'd call that new punk that sort of came from Green Day, where they actually can play for their instruments and they can sing. They just kind of yell loud.
Songs are kind of catchy.
Yeah. But they're pretty good. Well, they go to their first gig. In the end, the guy pays them their head. He's like, okay, it's $1 a head. Here's $3.
Oh, no.
God.
So Uncle Peckerhead does not like that. He says, well, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Well, you find out when Judy goes trying to find out why Uncle Peckerhead's in the back for so long. She opens the door to the manager's office and blood is everywhere. And you get a shot of Uncle Peckerhead and he sort of looks like a demon or a vampire or something like that. So he is transformed and is tearing this person apart. There's not a lot of blood in this movie, but the scenes that have blood are way, way over the top. To the point of almost, like one scene's almost Tokyo Gore Police level. Blood flying everywhere. Keeps it being a little more funny than getting disturbing violence, because her reaction is funny while you're watching it. So it keeps the humor going. It's not worrying about trying to be a scary movie. It's keeping the humor the whole time. So afterwards, the band goes out to dinner with the guy. He's like, I'll buy you dinner. Let's sit down. We'll talk about it. And he explains how he's got a curse that every night at midnight for, I think, like 13 minutes, he turns into this demon and goes around killing and eating people. But he's got it under control because she finds drugs in the place and, of course, thinks the guy's on drugs. But he's like, no, that's how I knock myself out so I don't kill things. And so, the rest of the band's like, cool. so they take a band vote and 2 beat the 1. And so he continues to drive for them on tour. Fun little scene comes up where they're staying with a band guy. The film now at this point sort of, it runs into storyline problems. Not that the story gets bad, it's just that there's the A storyline kind of gets superseded by the little B storylines of, hey, we're on tour, we're running into this weird band, we're running into this weird band. And sometimes those scenes work, sometimes they work a little less, but overall it's still pretty damn good. One of the B lines is that she stays at this guy's house that she's been talking to online, and they show up and he's this beautiful man. And the band is very happy to be staying with him until she actually sleeps with him, and the noises he makes are hilariously bad. And they run into there's a through line of another band that they keep running into who's run by this arrogant asshole who just thinks he's the shit. They've got several scenes with him which are fun because he's a wonderful dick. So that was a little bit, watching the movie, the makeup they put on Uncle Peckerhead, I'm like, did you guys hire the vampire makers from Buffy for this? Because
really?
That's a lot what it looks like.
Huh.
But
this sounds like it had a budget.
It had a decent budget. Everything lists it. Every review or thing I read about it listed as being incredibly low budget. But since nobody actually said what the budget, I don't know. I would be surprised if it's under a couple $100,000. It's got to have at least a little bit of money behind it because the gore is incredibly well done. They don't go a lot of places. I mean, they travel, but they don't, travel.
Sure.
You can tell they're just moving to a different building in the same area. But it's all shot in New Jersey. I don't know what difference that might make. But it's really hard to say because it looks good too. It's well shot. Let's see, where's that? Oh, and they go out and they have a great gig. A really good crowd, really good audience. Suddenly she's much happier with Uncle Peckerhead and everybody's having a fun time until they meet some metalheads in a parking lot, which I tell you is the gore scene of the movie. It's hilarious. Comes out the next morning and the band's spraying him down with a car wash. He's so covered in blood. But they continue on their way because they need the van. There's another they finally end up in a house with this other band where they're both sharing the same house, the shit band and them. And boy, the scene when he takes the band out is just gross. It is so gross. It's more than just blood flying around the room. So they continue on their tour. They have good. I mean, it's just fun. It's really well written. It's really interesting. It's one of those where you're watching weird things happen sometimes when you're reviewing 200 or some 200, 300, 400 movies for a festival is if you watch a really bad ones for a while and then you see one that's good, it's kind of like, is this just good because I've just watched this really good 10-minute movie that lasted 30 minutes? Or is this actually really good? So I like watching those again and find out, no, this is actually really good. And it is entirely the cast. Keeping it there, the writing the guy and directing the guy had, but the cast brings it all together because they're all at times annoying and really likable. And they go back and forth between the two. And the guy playing Uncle Peckerhead is so likable that you're kind of sitting most of the time going, oh, come on, just give the guy a break. So being that kind of movie, there's not really a lot of notes and trivia because it just came out in 2020.
Sure.
And most of the interviews are relatively similar. But Max, who the guy in the band was played by one of the guys in the band was played by a real life musician from Philadelphia in a band called $500. I don't know if the punk band, the leads already knew how to play instruments, but they at least really looked like they knew how to play instruments. Sure. So that was nice. You can get the Blu-ray from Amazon for $30, or you can go to Epic Pictures and pick it up for $20, straight from their distributor.
Wow.
Got a couple reviews here. Bloody Disgusting gave it 4 out of 5 skulls and called it laugh out loud, funny, and gruesomely gory. The best punk rock film since Green Room. Which is a strange comparison.
It's a weird comparison.
Green Room is so violent and disturbing. And
it's dark. Not funny at all.
No. But Uncle Peckerhead is a DIY small budget filmmaking done perfectly right. So I'm not sure. Rue Morgue praised the film, calling it a love letter to the punk indie aesthetic. And some of the scenes when they play live are kind of hilarious. Kind of like, I could imagine bands loving this, where they're in this weird log cabin playing in a corner of the cabin with like 10 people watching them. Called the film a Z movie that is good-naturedly stupid, slowly wins you over through sheer likability.
Man, I am going to watch this tonight.
It's fun. It is really fun. So yeah, continuing in my line of weird-ass named movies, Uncle Peckerhead. Although I would widely recommend this one as opposed to Butt Boy, I would very specifically recommend.
Right. You guys talking about your indie bands that go on tours for 5 days. I don't know if you remember when Spinal Tap got back together and they did their international reunion tour, one night only.
So good.
Well, okay. Some good choices there, guys. And I think, Eric, that means that it's what's going on over there?
Just about knocked a box of boxes off your shelf.
Didn't realize I was podcasting with Mr. Bean.
It's really comical.
Eric, it's your choice for the next subgenre.
Yes, it is.
What have you got for us?
Going along the lines of the whole movie doesn't have to be about it, like this one didn't all have to be about a band. We're going to do martial arts.
Ooh.
I mean, it can be as little as like, what was it, 4, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, where they had the karate guy.
Sure.
Up to a movie that's all about martial arts.
Man.
Like, what was that? Was it Pieces that had just
so
a random kung fu moment?
Oh, that would have been perfect for this, but alas.
I like this idea very much. Okay, so here's where we thank everybody again for, liking, sharing posts, for continuing to be a part of the value for value model, which is just blowing me away that so many people have decided to embrace this. And we cannot thank you enough, you guys.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Setting up an Etsy page, I mean, Jesus, man.
Danny is what you call an angel.
I did see on Facebook, his wife has put him up for sale. So if you are interested.
Has put Danny up for sale?
Yes.
I am buying him.
So,
We need him as a group. All those savings. Gonna buy one Danny.
Okay, guys, so we'll be back next week for the last episode we're recording at this cool old place. And we are talking about martial arts.
See ya.
Our show is recorded somewhere high above Naval Station Everett at the nexus of all realities and is engineered and produced by Eric Margaret. Our theme music is Strange Aeons Part 1 by the band Nightshade and is used with permission. Find Strange Aeons Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and wherever fine podcasts are found.
It's like, everything's fine. I don't know what your deal is. What the fuck, dude?